Rajinder Singh Mago, June 8, 2014, 1984, 45, 48, 43, yeah. I lived here in suburb of Chicago in Hanover Park, Illinois, actually. Yeah, I think a friend of mine called me up that, have you heard this happen? I said, no, I hadn't heard. So he says, turn the TV on, radio on, and that's how I found out. I felt very sad, and most of us cried that it happened at that time. Not my own immediate family, there was nobody that was impacted, because by that time most of my immediate family was here. My parents, my brothers, sisters, siblings, they were all here. Some of my cousins in Delhi were impacted after Indira Gandhi's assassination and the carnage. They were affected, but not on the in the June incident in Amritsar. Yeah, I know. After June, I mean, people were so upset. They were sad and mad at the same time. That how can the country they've called their own so far, and how could they do it? How could the army attack their most sacred place? That was the feeling. It was feeling of sadness and madness at the same time. Yeah, it did affect, because I'm not really a hardcore political person. I'm a social, cultural, and that kind of a person. So around that time in June '84, just a few days after this June 6th, we had organized a Gurdas Maan show here in Chicago, with just 2 or 3 days after that. So we had to cancel that, which was a big financial loss also. But at the same time, we knew that our community is not going to be coming to a show like that when such a bad thing has happened. So many people have been killed and so many have died, and Golden Temple has been desecrated. So we canceled that. We returned people's ticket monies. And it was, a lot of expense and all that, but that was one. Second thing happened to me at that same time. I used to be a co-anchor of an Indian TV show here in Chicago, one of the earlier ones. I had been there for a couple of years, from early '80s to '84, where, the name is History-Itihaas. And then what was going to happen is that I opened up the show along with 2 other ladies, and then the Indian government had sent some videos to be aired on that TV show. So I found out about it, and then I was going to be asked to open up the show and introduce that now you will be seeing these videos which were sent by the government of India regarding what was happening in the Golden Temple. And then they were going to display all the arms that they had stacked, and they would show one white paper kind of a thing, one side of the story. So I was supposed to I was going to be part of that at the TV show, because I've been the co-anchor. But I got a lot of calls from our own community people, and then I also felt myself that I should not be sitting there and introducing that kind of video, because here on one side is my community that is very important to me, my own community, Gurudwara and all. And here I'll be on the other side. So it was a hard, tough decision, because even at that time, didn't really know all the facts. I didn't know what was going on. But then I had to bow out of that. So I resigned from that co-anchor position of the TV show. So after that, I did not go, and that made me sad too, because I had been on there for 2-3 years and participated a lot in the Indian cultural activities and all those things. So I know the organizers of the TV show called me and kind of, almost requested me, short of begging me, please come, we need you, you have to. But I told them that, I have to make a choice. Do I go with my community or be here as a volunteer, unpaid, the TV show anchor? So that was the decision I had to take. So that's one big thing that happened to me. And then the third thing was that I was also a cultural secretary of the FIA, which is Federation of Indian Associations of Chicago, because I was very actively involved, and still am, with all these different activities. And in August, 15th August, India's Independence Day celebrations were going to take place in Downers Grove High School, and I was the organizer of the whole stage activities, because there were dances and items from each community, Punjabi community, Gujarati, Tamil, Bengali, and all those. So I was the coordinator of the program. Again, we were going there, and then our community here decided to protest outside of that show place. And so when I found that that's going to happen, so then again, instead of being on the stage doing all this show, I had to join the protesters. So those were a few things that happened to me. And after the October, November, Delhi, one of my cousins, first cousins very close to us, so like sisters, and their family, they called us, please take us out of here somehow, because we are not safe. People are out there killing us. And I think they hid under somebody's neighbor's house, and that's how they were saved. So those are some of the things that happened. Another friend of mine who's here, he said that his relatives were traveling in a train and they were taken out, and they were killed on the train station. So we heard a lot of those kind of things. And locally here, the local television, radios, and since I was kind of active in the community and my name was out there with the people, so they were calling me for interviews and my views, and on television and the public radio and all that. So yeah, I gave a lot of interviews like that at that time. And so there were so many things happening, and still, it still makes us sad that happened. That didn't have to happen, even though there are both sides to the stories. Some people say that maybe I don't want to get into the politics of all that all this was creation of Sanjay Gandhi and the Indira Gandhi themselves, and just to put a wedge in the Akalis and just to put the Sikhs down. And I'm not privy to a lot of that information, but from what I've read and heard, so some other means could have been employed to correct the situation there at the Golden Temple, and maybe 37, 8 or 40 other gurdwaras at the same time. So it really made us all sad. And we do what we call the Rangla Punjab, Baisakhi cultural program here in Chicago. So we do it in April in Baisakhi. So this thing happened in June. So 84, we had already done that, and we had close to 1,600 people that came to that show. And then afterward, we had to cancel it for a couple of years because the community wasn't really ready to celebrate or anything. They were just, not in the mood to do that. But eventually we thought that, things happen, people die, and then life has to go on. We gotta rebuild our lives. We gotta, take stock and then move forward. So we 2-3 years later we did start that program also. Yeah, we've talked, and my children are adults now, so they themselves had read about it, heard about it, and they're pretty much aware of what was going on, and they are pretty fair about it. They don't want to be taking one side or the other. They're all sad that this happened. They're very sad that this happened.